So I went through 2 shirts, did not like either one of them with the wig. So now I'm just like, fuck the wig. I put on a Cthulhu shirt, and we're here. We look like ass, but we're here.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Podcast. This is episode 4.
We've made it through 4 episodes without getting demonetized. Let's go.
Proud of you. Let's go.
Although I was worried about episode 3, but it went okay.
Yeah, I was worried about episode 3 definitely too. But I mean, hey, we didn't get demonetized.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all good.
Yep.
Let's go and get started on our first topic, the plane crash in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you want to pull that video up in the docket, if you're on it, Nick.
I think I am. Yes, I am. Okay.
Because Boogie said I need someone else to stream it and all that, because it doesn't do well on my end.
Okay. Not Jopra. Hang on. There we go.
Okay.
There it is.
Chill
Okay.
out.
Okay.
All right.
Terrifying moments tonight in.
Okay. So here's the video, everybody. It's about 1:25 long. Can you see it onto the stream, Tyler?
It's sharing. Hold on.
All good?
Yep, we're good.
All right.
In southern Pennsylvania, where the governor says a small private plane crashed near Lancaster Airport.
They're receiving multiple calls for a aircraft crash at the airport.
The FAA says the plane, known as a Beechcraft Bonanza, crashed around 3 p.m. local time. Authorities say 5 people were on board. Air traffic control indicating there may have been a serious incident in the lead-up.
Lancaster Tower, Bonanza 347, Mike has an open door. We need to return for a landing.
Mike, pull up.
Rescue 1, Lancaster Tower, the aircraft is down out just behind the terminal on the parking lot street area.
Dramatic video shows thick smoke and flames billowing out of cars. The governor says the Pennsylvania
I was gonna mention before we play this video, make sure your kids are not watching this.
On top of
people.
cars near this building. This
don't want
crash
kids
coming
to ever
after a string of
see these.
aviation crashes and close calls in the last 2 months.
Marissa Parra is joining us now. And Marissa, I understand we have an update in just the last couple of minutes now.
Hallie, we are just now learning from authorities that 5 people were taken to the hospital, but they did not give an update on their current status. We do know that the FAA and the NTSB are on their way to the scene now to begin that investigation. Hallie?
Marissa Parra, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about.
Okay. So, what is your guys' opinion on that? I mean, we've had like seven total airplane crashes in the U.S.
We have.
Just this year, right?
Yeah, just this year.
And it's already only the 3rd month.
And there was another one. It wasn't a crash, but a Southwest plane tried to take off on a taxiway.
Do you guys think that it's just like the wear and tear of the planes? Are these like new planes, older planes? Like, what's the consensus?
I mean, I don't even know how old this plane was.
From what I understand about these planes is that planes are getting mechanically inspected every single day because there's always something that could go wrong. Like, for example, there was a JetBlue plane that had to land with its front tire twisted the wrong way. So it was only landing on 2 tires. Then you have the engine catching fire on the FedEx aircraft. And then you have this one. It's weird, and they're all happening chronologically.
Yeah. And then
so it makes you wonder, like, is it the builders or is it the pilots that are at fault here?
I mean, I don't think it's like the builders. I mean, I mean, we just don't know. I mean, this is why the NTSB is investigating this kind of stuff.
You guys think it's like cheap parts?
It could be, because I think Bowen's going cheap lately, because back then they weren't taking any shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
But these days it feels like they're taking all these shortcuts and people are paying with their lives.
Right.
So,
I mean, just for instance, there's a fire on the tarmac, and it was at my airport in Colorado. All that. So, I mean, yo, what's up, Ace? How's everything going? All right. Let's go and watch the next video on there.
yes.
So we can see what happened.
So we got Denver Airport tarmac. Okay.
We start tonight at 7 with breaking news. New video shows fire on the ground underneath a plane at Denver International Airport. You can see all of the smoke pouring out there. As we zoom in, you can see those flames. The airport confirming that an American Airlines flight caught fire at gate C38. Now, the passengers were evacuated and the slides were deployed. This fire has been extinguished right now. Thanks for joining us at 7. I'm Kim Posey.
Yeah, and I'm Christine Noel. Certainly lots to get to here. So these pictures and video just coming into our newsroom. We're working to confirm which flight this was. A DIA spokesperson says that nobody was hurt here, so that's important to mention. And joining us now is Channel 2 aviation safety expert and USC professor Steve Cowell. Steve, thanks so much for joining us, especially on such quick notice. Diving right into this, you've seen the video and pictures. What do you think? What did you think when you first saw this? What do you make of it?
Well, first and foremost, what I saw were the flames on the ground, which is indicating some sort of flammable fluid on the ground. I did not see any indication of the aircraft itself being on fire.
See, however, the black marks right there on the plane, is that just from the smoke? And what would you expect the passengers to be experiencing inside the cabin with something like this?
Well, first of all, if there's an aircraft fire on the aircraft itself, the pilot is not going to pull into the gate. He's going to stand by while the aircraft rescue and firefighting teams deal with the situation on the outside. So I believe that the blackened outside is probably due to all of the smoke that came around the airplane as well as the soot. What the passengers were doing inside was exactly, hopefully, what the flight attendants were telling them to do. Leave their carry-on baggage behind, exit through the nearest available exit, and they were helping to guide the evacuation of the airplane.
All right, we will be touching base with you later in the evening. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I'm sure this was a really scary incident for anybody out there.
Without a doubt. And we do have a crew headed to DIA right now. We'll bring you the very latest right here at 7 o'clock, also on Fox 31 News at 9
Let me try to
and 10
find
o'clock.
another video, because this plane apparently had engine issues and all that.
Yeah, like that from that video, I didn't get a why, you know?
Engine. Let me send this to you, Nick. Hold on.
What you got there?
Denver Airport.
What?
I said, what do you got there?
So from that pizza place that I will not mention because I don't feel like getting doxxed today.
Okay.
I got their cream or like their cheesecake filling with the chocolate chips and the raspberry syrup.
Delicious.
Pretty fucking good. I haven't eaten. So.
Oh, me too. I feel the pain. Actually, that's a lie. I had a tiny bit of ramen, but that's about it.
I'm trying to find the.
I chopped up some chicken, grilled it up, and I put that in the ramen too. It was good. Whenever you find that video, send it to me.
Okay, I found it. Actually, hold on. Me send it in here in the docket, and you can look at it. Here.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's on the docket. It's the second one.
Okay.
That's the. So this plane was actually taken off from Colorado Springs. So.
Okay.
Denver, American 10,006, 16,000. We got descent via the Knicks. We have Juliet.
American 10,006, Denver approach, Echo turns, plan the RNF Zulu 16 right approach.
All right, RNF Zulu 16 right, yeah, I can't read my writing. Echo, we have that from American 10,006.
American 10,006, this or 1006, just to verify, not an emergency still, correct?
No, we just have a high engine vibration, so we are cruising slower than normal for American 10,006.
American 1006, and do you need any extra assistance, certain speed on the arrival or final, or certain length final?
No, actually, we can definitely maintain approach speeds. We just can't do climbs because we're having a high engine vibe. So we've got it pulled back for a smooth cruise.
American 1006, copy all. Plan RNF Zulu 16 right.
Great, thank you.
Okay. I'll give everybody a time to read that.
Okay. So if a plane is having high engine vibrations, why didn't it get checked for maintenance or anything?
Well, to be fair, I don't really know how you're supposed to check for vibrations unless, the engine is running. But even then, if the engine was fine at the time of the inspection, anything can happen between the inspection and the takeoff.
That is true.
So there's not really any way of knowing. So.
Sorry, I'm muted, but shouldn't you have a someone who is quickly inspecting the plane while it's running, right when the passengers are getting on?
They do have maintenance teams at the other airports and all that check the planes and all that, maintenance crews that do that. I watched this one aviation mechanic. He's on YouTube and all that, and yeah, I watch him, and he does American. He works for American Airlines and all that.
Okay.
All right, let's continue the video.
American 10,006, we are coming around approaching APAs for 16 right. I'd just like to request in the event of emergency we could get us straight out.
American 1006, that's approved as requested.
Thank you.
And American 1006, running 16 right, clear to land, 104010.
Clear to land, 16 right, American 10,006.
Charlie 48, engine fire. Charlie 48, engine fire, copy.
So, statistically speaking, are the number of airplane crashes increasing, or are we just seeing a cluster of them this early in the year?
I really do not know, to be honest. Because, if you want, you can talk, Nick. I don't mind.
Well, at the time, it might seem like, it's just happening all in a cluster.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also be, like you said, it could just be the fact that, it is happening just early on in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have no way of knowing. Now, we can hope that as time goes on, it will slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, I'm a conspiracy nut, so I wonder if it is an issue with budget cuts and them cutting down the amount of times that parts are getting replaced or like something along those lines to where they're breaking down more quicker. And they're not getting, like, I don't understand why these issues aren't getting caught before the plane takes off. I don't understand. I also don't understand planes in general, but I'm like, why aren't these issues getting caught before you take off? You know?
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know much about planes either, but
I mean,
like you,
I don't know much about planes either, but I mean, I play Flight Simulator a lot, and I'm gonna have to say that's never happened to me in Flight Simulator, so I'm just thankful. I mean, if that happened to me in Flight Simulator, then yeah.
For people who don't know a lot about planes, you sure have discussed them twice in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
I guess we could bring up the next topic while we're at it about the.
Sure.
So my governor, Jared Polis, discusses how changes will impact Colorado, and
sure,
we don't know what those changes are. So, yeah.
Okay, let's watch the video.
Yeah.
Governor Jared Polis on the hot seat today, answering questions about everything from what's going on at the state capitol and what's going on at the White House so far this year.
Yeah, Fox 31 political reporter Gabrielle Franklin breaks down what he talked about.
Governor Polis answered questions from the Capitol Press Corps today, and many of those questions were centered around how federal actions are impacting folks here at home in Colorado.
We don't, again, I don't know what the federal government will do. We're monitoring a wide variety of laws.
Governor Polis says he's keeping an eye on the feds as the Trump administration moves to make government more efficient, downsizing government programs and agencies. One area he is concerned about is Medicaid.
Yeah, he does not like what's going on. That's a nice way of saying, I don't like what's going on. We're going to do our own thing here.
Cuts to Medicaid that would throw Coloradans off of their health care. In addition to throwing Coloradans off of their health care,
so I'm on Medicaid.
It would also jeopardize
Mm-hmm.
the stability of
that
many
would be
rural
bad
hospitals.
To me,
patients.
if they
Colorado lawmakers are
do
closely
cut
watching
Medicaid.
that funding too, as the state faces $1 billion budget gap, with Medicaid costs taking up a bit of that hole. The governor says he's not against all reductions in government spending. The Department of Government Efficiency's, quote, wall of receipts lists some federal agencies, the cost of their annual leases, and how much money DOGE plans to save as a result of cutting those leases. Our team found the cuts in Colorado amount to more than $9.4 million in lease terminations. The governor couldn't confirm if they are happening.
Most of what I've heard to this point are sort of rumors. They're not necessarily formal plans. We would hope that those that area would become quickly available for sale if they own it or for lease. We hope it's not tied up for years. So there is strong demand in Colorado. And again, on a case-by-case basis, we would look forward to evaluating any opportunities that come our way with regard to any downsizing of the federal footprint in our state.
And the Forest Service building in Fort Collins was on that list for lease terminations. Governor Polis did mention Forest Service cuts as one of his top concerns, given their work on mitigating wildfires here in the state. Reporting outside the state capitol, Gabrielle Franklin, Fox 31.
All right. So, what is your guys' opinion about that? Like, just to get your perspective.
That's a you topic, my guy.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. Well,
I don't follow politics.
I feel
so, from what I understand, they are doing a whole shit ton of budget cuts right now, which some are affecting programs like Medicare. There's also an issue with national forests being having budget cuts, and like a whole bunch of just shit. Right. I'm not too familiar with all of the specifics except for the national forests and Medicaid. But I feel like cutting the budget of Medicaid is already like the people who have Medicaid are already not getting paid enough, and Medicaid does not cover enough. So further increasing a deficit of that budget will end up killing people. 110%. And I'm not about that.
And
Go ahead.
I'm on Medicaid because I lost my job and all that, and and I don't want Medicaid to go away. So
yeah.
And I think what like Trump is doing right now is making no sense at all. So
yeah, I have my own opinions on what's going on. Like dependent on how political you guys wanna get on the show, I can have long conversations about it.
Boogie says my mic is too quiet for some reason. I don't know why, but I can.
On the Discord side, you're fine, but
on the Discord side, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I want to get to the bad weather in Texas, if we can do that.
Yeah, it is crazy. We even having extreme amounts of bad
Yes,
weather.
we have. Okay.
Okay.
There it goes.
I mean, wind strong enough to push over a truck.
Yes.
Well, look at that.
So, this video is taking place in the Panhandle, where there aren't very many like trees up there, and honestly, the high winds have a lot to do with there being a clear path for the wind to go, so it just keeps picking up speed. And the deforestation in the country is causing a lot of high winds, but.
I mean,
that shit's crazy.
I mean, we were having bad winds in Colorado, and
it's crazy that this semi is on the verge of flipping over. Yet you have this Ford Explorer sitting here like nothing's happening.
Well, yeah, because the high wind is higher, so it's like the center of gravity of the truck is higher than the whatever car you said.
That's a Ford Explorer.
Yeah, that is a Ford Explorer. The officer. I mean, hey, I give kudos to the officer helping the driver.
Yeah, he's doing his fucking best. That's all you can do. But yeah, the high winds is a crazy thing, and honestly, weather's just gonna get worse as we start having global warming issues. Damn.
And honestly, this is definitely might be a factor of global warming, weather changes.
Yeah. I mean, it is. There so might be. Now, whether or not you believe in global warming in the first place, that's up to you. Like, I'm not gonna judge you for choosing not to believe in global warming, but that's a factor of it for sure.
Well, that truck didn't flip. Yeah, those winds are definitely really high in Texas.
Yeah.
And there was tornadoes and all that in Mississippi and all that in Alabama.
I think 5 tornadoes at once hit down.
5 tornadoes.
It was either 3 or 5.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I think Chicago got pelted with a lot of bad shit.
Sure.
I mean,
It's like hit Illinois.
my state actually got pounded with high winds too, and we had some wildfires. Oh, should we talk about the SpaceX launch, guys? Or
When did that happen?
Happened. They were. Shoot, I forgot day it happened.
SpaceX is Tesla, right?
I don't even know, but
Yeah, it's Elon's little
yeah.
project.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And they brought the. This is a 1 hour straight 1 hour thing, and yeah.
Well, we're not going to watch the full video.
Yeah, we're not
going to
watch the
3-hour
full
video. And
it's a 3. I mean, we.
Why not? You guys don't want to hang out with me for 3 hours? That's ridiculous.
I mean, okay, guys, okay, chat. So we're going to be doing a 5-hour podcast today, starting now.
3 hours of it is this fucking video.
I was gonna
imagine. Yep.
I was gonna want to skip to the launch, but.
Yeah, but the watching them prepare for the launch is also interesting, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watching them put books away and shit.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, exactly.
Quality entertainment.
Exactly. Listen to that noise in your ear for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, it's so good. It doesn't make me want to shoot myself. I don't know.
Oh God.
Okay, so for real, skip this.
Yeah, let's skip this. Let's skip this. Let's skip to the launch.
God, that sound is awful.
It's still there after an hour.
It doesn't end.
And it's still there. Okay, there's the launch, I think.
No,
Word.
it
So-
has a countdown timer though. but-
Okay, this is saying that not NASA is launching SpaceX Crew Mission 10. So does that mean that Elon is using the Houston NASA base in order to launch his rockets?
No.
Is that what's going on?
No, he they brought back people who were in space, who've been in space forever and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was technically a rescue mission.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a rescue mission.
For whom?
The astronauts on the space station.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on in the space station? Were they just trapped or some shit?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Like I said, I don't watch politics, so I really have no idea.
What? This has nothing to do with politics, my guy.
Well, meaning I don't watch the news.
Hi. Not everything's political, Nicholas. Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Who recorded this?
I don't even know.
ABC News.
Yeah.
Well, they suck.
On internal power.
Oh, you heard the first words in the whole video.
Word.
And it's been 2.5 hours.
Go to.
Prepare to launch in T-minus 3.5 hours.
Go to 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Word. So the ISS is the International Space Station. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ground gas
Okay.
expect loud venting.
Got it.
Yeah, the International Space Station.
Okay, so there were astronauts trapped or unable to come home on the International Space Station. So they sent out a crew of SpaceX astronauts.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Nick, go to 2 minutes, 31 seconds, or 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's already at 2:31, buddy. It's not worth it.
Falcon 9 startup.
What do you mean?
it's
We
the
need to
startup.
skip the next 45 seconds.
Oh, it's 2 minutes, 32:04.
Go for launch.
It's okay.
Okay, there he goes.
We'll be okay. Go for launch. 10, 9, 8. Oh, damn.
T-minus 10, 9, 8.
I was so close.
There it goes.
5,
4, 3,
3, 2, 1.
Ignition and lift off. Go SpaceX, go NASA Crew 10. Copy, 1 Alpha. Vehicles pitching downrange.
Vehicles pitching downrange. Based on Kerbal Space Program, they're gonna release their engines here in a few.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Standing throttle down. Max Q.
Hold on, I'm gonna look how long they've been up there.
Vehicle supersonic.
I think it's been a few years.
I think
Damn,
so too.
Throttle up.
Thinking.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and at least it did not blow up or anything. Because that would be bad. Because I've seen like the last test launches the last test launch has blown up and all that for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah.
Impact shell started.
Oh, it's been 9 months.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Oh, only 9 months? Okay.
What was wrong?
On the...
What was wrong with it, Tyler?
Huh? No, for the astronauts stuck on the space station.
Yeah, why were they stranded?
Copy, 2 Alpha.
I don't even know. It doesn't say on Google.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, but...
Oh, look. Why were the astronauts stuck in space?
I mean, hey, at least they made it safely back home, and that's all. I think they splashed down yesterday or something. I don't know. I forgot when they did, but
According to the BBC, there were technical issues with their return capsule, which created an issue of them not being able to come back. So we had to send people. They were initially meant to only be up there for 8 days.
Okay, I did not know that. And that's some quite interesting.
Imagine being stuck up there, like planning on going up there for a week and being stuck up there for 9 months. Like, did they run out of resources?
I would hate that, to be honest. No PC, no gaming, all that.
I might enjoy the peace, actually.
I'd sleep the whole time.
Right? Be like, oh, sorry, I can't come into work. Fucking stuck on that. Stuck on the International Space Station.
Yeah, if they worked at Goodwill, they'd be fired for it.
They would? Oh, yeah. Because your work doesn't give a shit about anyone doing that.
Nicholas, I have a story to tell you. Oh, buddy.
Yeah, a certain multicolored-haired someone will be like, excuse me, why aren't you at work?
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for the next topic?
Sure.
What?
We got half an hour left on this video. What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just watch.
We're gonna watch it all.
I'm gonna
You're gonna
personally finish watching that later. Yes, I am. And
Okay.
In fact, I'm gonna pin the tab.
Fucking
What
nerd.
is our favorite video games?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Right now, my favorite video game is Helldivers 2. A beautiful, beautiful work of art. But Skyrim takes the cake.
Okay.
Also nerd.
What are you gonna say, Tetris?
Tetris? How old do you think I am?
Well, I mean, one of my coworkers suggested Tetris to me while I worked at FedEx because
Sure.
I did not like it at all.
Yeah, I play this pretty cool RPG game. It's called Tetris.
My housemate can hear me, and apparently they think my age is in between 12 and 82. Little asshole.
But that's closer. Never mind. If I say that, you'll hit me at work, so I'm not gonna say
Correct. Anyway, my favorite game series is the Uncharted series.
Okay,
I absolutely love those games. I have beaten Uncharted 1 probably 20 times, and I platinumed it at one point. Lost that account, so I'm not platinumed in it anymore. But I've also done a headshot challenge, so I was only able to beat that game while shooting headshots. That was difficult. I think I played on normal. Very difficult.
No, if I had to pick a favorite series, it's probably the Last of Us series. Those two games are done really well.
Yeah. Naughty Dog did both Uncharted and Last of Us, so I respect it. But I like Uncharted more because pirates.
Although, hang on. Actually,
okay.
You said pirates, and I ignore everything I just said. Assassin's Creed.
Ugh.
What?
I mean, what?
Amazing. It's my favorite. Now, amazing.
Negative.
Okay. No, you're wrong.
It's the same game. It's the same game.
It's not the same game.
It's the same game like 12 times.
It's not the same game.
This is like Call of Duty for RPGs. Okay?
Yeah, well, Call of Duty is stupid.
Exactly.
Okay, I hate Call of Duty. It makes no sense to me.
It's the same.
No, it's not.
It's the same. The only difference is you ever got were like Black Flag, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. I was about to say Black Flag is one of my favorite games ever because of that
so
series.
Good. That's so good for you. You got to drive a boat.
Yeah.
But then every other game was like, man gets stuck in a timeline, has to kill people, and then get back to their own timeline. That's all of them.
Yeah. It's an amazing series.
What?
Okay.
Anyway, yes. So Uncharted is my favorite. I love Nathan Drake. I love anything that to have to do with blonde-haired lady whose name escapes me, Elena. Elena.
And what you're gonna say next is that the movie was done really well.
The movie sucked ass. Don't even play with me, Nicholas. Don't even play with me. The fact that this movie, they had the gluten-free audacity to fuck up the timeline and be like, okay, yeah, Sully and Nathan Drake met in America and not fucking Colombia, pissed me off. I hate the movie.
I love the fact that they starred Tom Holland and fucking Mark Wahlberg as that, you know?
Like, okay, Tom Holland was an okay young Nathan Drake, okay? He was alright. And he did the flips and the tricks and it was awesome, okay? But Mark Wahlberg as Sully was incorrect.
Personally, in my opinion, I think Tom Hanks could have done a perfect role as that.
Yeah, Tom Hanks would have done well. Like any gruff like man would have done better than Mark Wahlberg. But no, they had to have a name for this fucking movie, and it suffered.
Mark Wahlberg is already one of my favorite actors.
Now, mind you, okay. Oh, and the fact that they insinuated that Nathan Drake and Chloe knew each other before they met for the first time fucking floored me. Also, Elena wasn't in there, but fucking Chloe was. I hate Chloe. Chloe's a bitch. I hate her. 2-time skank.
Should I be worried? Or...
No, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay.
They're so mad that they're hugging their Pokemon right now.
So my favorite video game would have to be Alaskan Truck Simulator. It's a really good game. I've been liking it, and it's much it's much more detailed.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Bless you.
Okay, but yeah, that's my favorite game.
So why do you put this Alaskan Truck Simulator above all the other truck simulators?
You can actually get out of the cab and all that, like out of the truck.
Oh, word.
I'll admit that is one thing I wish that American Truck Simulator had.
Mm-hmm.
And if the fucking developer of American Truck Simulator is listening to this right now, you fucked up.
Okay.
Let us get out of the cab.
Yeah, let us get out of the cab, American Truck Simulator. We need that.
Yeah, let us get out of the cab. I play that game loads.
I mean,
you would find it relaxing though, knowing you.
No.
You actually
I mean,
would.
isn't there an Alaska mod where you can drive in Alaska? Or
There's also an Australian mod where you can drive in Australia. Jeff Fabiano did it.
Didn't it get updated? Or
I have no idea. Okay, so apparently it's nail time. So everybody, let's get our files and let's start doing our
Hey,
nail time? Oh, never mind. Okay.
Nail time.
Oh, I
nail
thought
time.
Okay, let's move.
Wait, hang on. No. What did you think I said?
I thought you said male.
Okay, first of all, ew.
I mean, mail time, M-A-L-E, mail time, M-A-I-L, mail time, N-A-I-L.
The M-A-I-L one. But okay. So I want to bring this up to Nick.
What'd I do?
It's nothing. So
whatever it is you think I did, I didn't do it. It was you.
You did it. I saw it.
I wanna get into the Battle of Midway. All that.
Yes. Let's go. Okay.
Dear.
Okay. I have a book here somewhere about it. Where the fuck is it? I don't have time to look for it. Okay. Whew. Yes, the Battle of Midway. So this is during World War II.
Uh-huh.
So, okay. We're going to watch a video on it too. A short video, okay?
Sure.
Okay. Wait, no. Okay.
I'll listen to this without commenting on how ecstatic you are about the World War II if you let me talk about Unit 731.
Is that a Star Wars clone trooper unit? Like what?
No, it's a unit out of Korea? Japan? Something. Anyway, they tortured people.
I am going to turn my light on real quick, so I'll be right back.
But it happened during World War II as well.
Okay, so first thing we're going to watch is the sinking of the Lady Lex. Now, this is one of the largest aircraft carriers of that time. Of the USS Lexington. because she was bombed and she sunk. Okay, USS Lexington. It's a... Okay, we'll watch this one.
USS Lexington was a mighty aircraft carrier from the U.S. Navy that helped
I like this
dude's
dude's voice.
Japanese Empire during World
I
War
will
II.
say.
One of the largest and fastest ships of its day.
I'm out of water.
Initially designed as a battle cruiser.
Sucks.
It was then reclassified and affectionately nicknamed Lady Lex. After the unexpected attack on Pearl Harbor, Lexington was sent to the Coral Sea to halt the Japanese advance.
Yeah, so the Battle of Midway, so during that whole Battle of Midway, there was a battle during the Battle of Midway called the Battle of the Coral Sea, which is where all this happened. It's technically the Battle of the Coral Sea that I find so interesting.
The ensuing Battle of the Coral Sea in May of 1942 would become the first carrier battle in history in which the opposing forces never came within sight of each other. Still, the Americans inflicted so much damage upon the Japanese fleet that they would not be able to stand up to them in the forthcoming Battle of Midway. Lexington's sacrifice would prove a watershed moment in naval history. Lady Lex. USS Lexington was laid down in January of 1921. It was initially designed as a battlecruiser, but after the Washington Naval Treaty of 1922 that prohibited the construction of new battleships and battlecruisers, Lexington and its sister ship Saratoga were reclassified. The two Lexington-class ships would now serve as aircraft carriers. Rear Admiral William A. Moffett, chief of the Navy's new Bureau of Aeronautics, said of the new carrier, quote, "This great carrier represents a powerful instrument on the offensive. I'm convinced that a bombing attack launched from such carriers, from an unknown point at an unknown instant with an unknown objective, cannot be warded off by defensive aircraft based on shore."
What happened to the video? Oh.
Lexington was launched in 1925. The ship was 888 feet long. Its top speed reached 35 knots, and it had a propulsion system that included 4 sets.
Yeah, it was one of the fastest aircraft carriers of that time.
Oh, wow.
Sailed 2,200 miles from San Pedro, California to Honolulu, Hawaii in just over 72 hours. Lexington had a basic complement of 2,200 men and carried tubs of rapid-fire guns and a main battery of 8-inch rifles. This armament would later be replaced to accommodate 23 Wildcat fighters, 36 Dauntless dive bombers, and 12 Devastator torpedo bombers. The imposing vessel was commissioned on December 14th, 1927, and received the nickname of Lady Lex. It entered service a year later and was assigned to the Pacific Fleet. From 1930 to 1932, the ship was commanded by naval aviator Ernest J. King, who would become the 5-star Chief of Naval Operations in World War II. During a drought that lasted several months in 1929 and 1930, Lexington supplemented the electrical supply of the city of Tacoma, Washington. She then helped deliver supplies to Managua in Nicaragua after the devastating 1931 earthquake. And the carrier even had a crucial role in the massive 2-week search operation to find Amelia Earhart in 1937. Both Lexington and Saratoga eventually helped to plan and refine carrier strategies before World War II broke out. And in an ominous twist of fate, these tactics included staging surprise attacks on Pearl Harbor. The war begins. From 1940 onward, Lexington was commanded by Captain Frederick C. Ted Sherman, a skillful submarine veteran from World War I and Navy crossholder. At the time of the Pearl Harbor attack on December 7, 1941, Lexington was ferrying a squadron of Vought SB-2U Vindicator dive bombers to Midway Island. The mission was canceled when the carrier was still 400 miles southeast of Midway, and she then turned around to look for Japanese carriers along the south of Oahu. A few days later, Lexington returned to Pearl Harbor for refueling. On December 14th, Lexington joined Task Force 11 under the command of Vice Admiral Wilson Brown, Jr. The fleet consisted of 3 heavy cruisers, 9 destroyers, and 1 oiler tank. Their mission was to divert the Japanese forces en route to the besieged Wake Island by creating a diversion in the Marshall Islands. But the attack was canceled on December 20th, and the Japanese captured Wake Island 3 days later, before the relief efforts got there. The following month, Lexington was sent to the Coral Sea to block Japanese advances in the area. Several American, British, and Australian vessels would join forces to attack a major Japanese naval base in Rabaul, New Britain. However, they were soon spotted by flying boats, and Brown attempted to cancel the raid, but it was too late. Land-based Nakajima B-5N Kate and Mitsubishi G-4M Betty torpedo bombers charged against the fleet, while the Americans responded with Grumman F-4F Wildcats and Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers.
Yeah, Wildcats are one of my favorite planes.
Lieutenant Edward H. O'Hare intercepted a formation of 9 Japanese bombers and shot down 5 Bettys in 4 minutes. He became the Navy's first flying ace and the first naval recipient of the Medal of Honor in World War II for these actions. He also received 5,000 cigarettes from workers at Grumman Aircraft Corporation.
5,000 cigarettes?
Shit. The Allies were in a dire predicament. The Japanese had seized Wake, Guam, and several smaller islands, and had taken over British bases in Singapore and Hong Kong. They had also attacked Malaya, the Philippines, the Dutch Indies, the Gilbert Islands, Shanghai, Borneo, and Burma. In early 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt told Prime Minister Winston Churchill, quote, "The Pacific situation is very grave." On April 18th, American codebreakers found out about the Japanese Operation Mo that would be launched on May 3rd. The objective was to capture Tulagi in the Solomons, then Rabaul, and finally Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. The Japanese strategies usually relied on a passive enemy that wouldn't cause too much trouble, and they were overconfident about their forces. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto expressed that the Japanese were gripped by, quote, "the victory disease," while British Captain Basil Liddell Hart described the Japanese maneuvers as a, quote, "strategic overstretch." The Japanese forces' ultimate goal was to be able to execute land-based attacks on northern Australia. If they controlled New Guinea, the Japanese could also reach the islands of New Caledonia, Fiji, and Samoa from there. This would then halt communications and supply lines between Australia and the US, potentially forcing Australia to surrender. Out of the 5 aircraft carriers that the Americans had deployed to the Pacific, only Yorktown and Lexington were capable of facing the Japanese threat. Battle of the Coral Sea. Japanese forces invaded Tulagi on May 3rd, as British and Australian troops had already evacuated the island before the enemy got there. But the next day, the Americans caught the invaders by surprise with a full-on aircraft carrier task force attack, destroying several Japanese ships and aircraft. Still, the damage wasn't enough to hinder the Japanese from building a seaplane base on the island. Meanwhile, Yorktown and Lexington sailed west to the Jamard Passage near Port Moresby to face Japan's combined fleet, but they couldn't find them as the enemy was miles away surrounding the Solomons. Both fleets stalked each other for 2 days, with poor weather conditions leading to several mistakes and missed opportunities. On May 7th, Japanese aircraft spotted the USS Neosho Oiler and the USS Sims destroyer and mistook them as carriers. Their strikes sank the destroyer and heavily damaged the fleet oiler. Meanwhile, Lexington's air group launched bombs and torpedoes against the Japanese light carrier Shoho, believing it to be a fleet carrier. The Japanese ship was sunk a short distance from Mishima Island. The next morning, both fleets were unsuspectedly close, and engagement became inevitable. The American Dauntlesses and Devastators scored first against the Japanese carriers. Zuikaku managed to hide under the clouds, but Shokaku was out in the open. Lieutenant John J. Powers, piloting one of the bombers, had vowed, quote, "to get a hit if I have to lay it on their flight deck." And he fulfilled that promise. Powers dropped one of 3 bombs that forced Shokaku to withdraw, but he was caught up in the explosion. He would eventually be awarded a posthumous Medal of Honor. Meanwhile, a Japanese raid of 69 aircraft was detected by Lexington radars. The Navy immediately sent 9 Wildcats to intercept them, but they were flying too low and saw the Japanese aircraft pass them over. A coordinated strike from the Japanese torpedo and bombing squadrons ultimately proved tactically superior to the Americans, and the vast majority of their aircraft concentrated on Lexington. The American carrier dodged the attacks for a while, but it was eventually hit on its port side by 2 torpedoes.
Yeah, so what happened was when that torpedo hit it on its port side, right?
Mm-hmm.
It hit a gas line, which sent explosions throughout the entire ship.
Oh.
Which is the main reason why she was then defenseless.
2 divers also scored hits against the vessel, but they caused minor damage. The damaged carrier could still conduct flight operations and keep moving at 24 knots. Lexington kept sending and receiving aircraft when an explosion triggered by sparks that ignited gasoline vapors briefly halted operations. Another blast 2 hours later wrecked the water pressure and steering control systems. And a series of explosions in the following hours finally put a final blow on the colossal carrier. Captain Sherman reluctantly ordered to abandon ship at 5:07 p.m., and around 2,770 surviving crew members were evacuated.
Yeah, so a captain of a nearby battleship then ordered for an American battleship to sink the American destroyer. And the reason why they did that is so that the Japanese could not get their hands on all the intel that was still on board the American carrier.
Over 200 men had lost their lives, but no wounded men were left behind. Legacy. The task force then regrouped and withdrew to the south. Lexington was scuttled to prevent exposing it to the enemy, and between 7:15 and 7:52 p.m., 5 torpedoes from the destroyer Phelps sank the ship for good. An officer exclaimed, quote, "There she goes. She didn't turn over. She's going down with her head up. Dear old Lex, a lady to the last." Although the battle was a victory for the Japanese in terms of ships sunk, it would prove a strategic victory for the Allies. Lady Lex's sacrifice would cost the Japanese 2 carriers that required repairs and were not ready to fight in the Battle of Midway a month later, a conflict that would prove the downfall of the Japanese Empire. Thanks for watching my video.
Yeah. So that explained the Battle of the Coral Sea / Battle of Midway in about 10 minutes. So.
Oh wow. I didn't know any of
I
this.
have follow-up questions.
Yes, please.
1, why was this important?
Okay, so it was important because it happened maybe a couple years after, even maybe a couple months after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
So what was so important was, what most people don't know is that the Lady Lex and the Yorktown were supposed to be at Pearl Harbor when the bombing happened, but no, they were out at sea.
Okay.
So without those 2 carriers, it is very possible that the Americans could have lost the Battle of Midway.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's why that's so important.
And 2, why do you like it?
It's war stuff. I like war stuff.
I understand you like war stuff, but why are you gravitated towards this battle in the first place?
So when I was 12, my dad gave me this book. He's like, "Son, I know you like Navy shit. I'm going to point you towards this one story in particular." And it was the Battle of the Coral Sea. The strategies that were used, like the excitement that must have been, I don't know, it was exciting to me, and I enjoyed it. And I could almost picture while I was reading it like I was there watching it happen. I don't know.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Or you can go.
Oh no, I was gonna talk about the Unit 731 if you guys were okay with it.
We're fine with it.
Okay, so Unit 731 is a Japanese science group, right, that were active during World War II. They committed atrocities towards Korean people, which is a heavy reason why Koreans hate Japanese people right now, is because of what this unit did. So they committed experiments. I have a list. So they tested frostbite, like how long it takes for that to be lethal. So they gave people frostbite and just let them live through it. Let's see. Vivisection. So vivisection was performed without anesthesia. Weapons testing. So they tested bayonets, swords, and knives on the prisoners. They spread diseases like the Black Plague and syphilis to these inmates. And then I'm not gonna talk about that one because that's a little too much. But they are basically the reason that we have so much information on the Black Plague. And it was rumored that close to the dropping of the big bombs on Hiroshima, that they were going to spread the Black Plague in San Francisco. And it is my personal opinion that in order to stop that, they dropped the bombs. Because the Black Plague is disgusting.
Well,
and it would have destroyed the country. Okay.
But they have a cure for the plague now, don't they? It's like antibiotics.
I mean, now, but not in World War II.
I mean, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Because when did the Black Plague originally? That was during like medieval times, right?
Oh yeah, no. They somehow the Japanese were able to extract the plague, like the actual plague from something from that era, and like basically recreate it in a science lab.
Oh, wow.
So
because I know the Black Plague devastated like the English area, like Britain, France, all those areas.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is that you really only saw it in like poor towns where there are rats.
One of the craziest things that these people did is they just released diseases in rural Korea. Like, that's what they did. They just released it in rural Korea, where these people did not have access to medical whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, this unit was crazy. And I would highly recommend the video by the same name, Unit 731, or like the horrors of Unit 731 by Wendigoon, because he goes into it more in depth than I can in like a 5-minute conversation.
Okay.
Very good video.
We could watch that. Is it graphic?
No.
No.
He's a good Christian boy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
we
like,
could
go ahead.
We could watch it during the podcast if you guys don't mind going over our time limit.
Yeah, we don't mind. I don't mind at all.
Do you have a link to it, Kate?
I can get you one because it's one of my favorite episodes.
Okay, well, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to refill my water real quick.
Okay. Because we're at 1 hour right now, and
okay.
Yeah, we're 1 hour. So
I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, guys. We're gonna take a quick intermission. All that. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and I will be right back, and all that. So I'll be right back.
Hello, it is I. I have taken over. My name is Lugia. I have taken over, and I can't read your comments. So, I hope you guys are okay with it. Starting next week, I think we're gonna start talking about the differences between, feudal Japan and now. For sure. I think that's an interesting topic. And then we'll do a 4-hour long video on Ghost of Tsushima and why it's one of the greatest games ever created. I think that'll be okay.
Are you talking to Tyler?
No, I'm talking to the chat. Shut up. This is my podcast now.
I didn't know if you were talking to Tyler. I was like, hey, buddy, he's gone, my guy.
I know he was gone. I was talking to the beautiful chat. Okay. It is my podcast now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
I didn't plan a coup.
All right, so Kate will be my Rocky Mountain Podcast co-host. Tyler, I'm sorry, buddy. It's been nice knowing you.
Okay.
I'm taking over. Okay, let's watch the video.
I said I was taking over.
Okay, let's watch this video.
Oh, it's a 45-minute video.
Oh, is that okay?
That's fine.
That's
I don't care.
I don't have anything better to do.
I love this man with all of my heart. Too bad he's
I
married.
mean, we do need to get on to the last topics and ask questions to chat and all that. So,
Well, let's see. Are there any chatters anyway? Let's figure that out. There's two
Well,
people
the last person who sent a message was Boogeyman.
watching. Yeah, it's Boogie.
So
I mean, we could ask the questions after the video. So let's just get to the video.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. You guys see it? Can the stream see it?
Yes, the
No.
stream can.
I mean, what?
hold on. Yes, now
Yeah.
the stream can see it.
And tales from our past. It's often comforting to look at those stories through a lens of superiority. After all, in the modern age, people have more information and are more connected to each other than they ever have been before. So when we look back at tragedies and atrocities that people have committed, it's easy to apply a label of ignorance and just say that they weren't in the same position that we are now, so it makes sense that they did the things they did. But regardless of any label or explanation that you could come up with, it's hard to justify the evils of Unit 731. Unit 731 was officially a public health department within Japan during World War II. Although now we know, as the years have revealed, Unit 731 was in actuality perhaps the most disturbing case of human experimentation ever. The actions that Unit 731 did for the perseverance of a country and an idea is hard to imagine any person doing for whatever selfish reason, much less the entire efforts of a military and government. So today, we're going to talk about the history and tragedy of Unit 731, as well as the incredible injustice that befell everything in the end. Now, before we get started, I just want to mention that while I am going to be careful with my language and not be too explicit with some of my wording or details, the topics we're going to be broaching still relate to intense violence against women, children, prisoners of war, civilians, and all manner of executions, both standard and barbaric. And while I do think it's important to talk about these things, not only for the victims who were destroyed by this tragedy, but also so that the evils that were done by man are never forgotten lest they be repeated. And while I think all that's important, I also want to say that if you are sensitive to these topics, it's not worth your own health and mentality. So again, if this video is something that you don't want to deal with, or if some of the topics that I briefly mentioned are too intense, feel free to click off now. And also, for those who are sticking around, the video is going to be a bummer. There's not a lot of jokes or fun to be had with this one. Like I said, I think it's important to talk about, but it's just going to be...
Okay, what was... Is he normally a jokester and a funny guy?
Okay, so Wendigoon is one of the greatest creators ever. Okay? I love him to death. But yeah, he's normally like a funny haha dude.
Okay, gotcha. So that's why you're laughing. It's because he said this video is gonna be a bummer.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just
Understood.
like the way he said it too. It's like, this guys, just listen. This is gonna suck for all of you.
The video's going to be a bummer. There's not a lot of jokes or fun to be had with this one. Like I said, I think it's important to talk about, but it's just going to be sad and a lot. And I can't wait to get done filming this so that I don't have to think about it anymore. Push all this trauma onto you all. Before we get into that,
Okay, buddy.
Just, sad for a half hour, however long this video is. We're going to do something a little quirky.
You guys
a little weird
didn't
right
see
now
me
to kinda
spit
lighten
up
the
my
mood a
soda.
bit. Like,
Nope.
I don't know, maybe
Nothing was seen.
radicalize my audience. So with that out of the way,
Okay, buddy.
something that really matters. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. But do you know what hasn't been a disaster?
He's so funny.
Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is back and better than ever because now they're bringing the new animated limited series. Raid
I just
Call of
love
the
him
Arbiter,
so much.
a series that you can watch for free in-game right now. The first episode is out now. It revolves around the character of Gaelic, and from the animation to the character arcs that they're building, they really use the fantasy setting for all it's worth. The series is really shaping up to be something special. New episodes will be coming out every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time up until July
Raid
20th.
Shadow
Free
Legends.
to watch with Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is also releasing behind the scenes and lore content on their YouTube channel. Meaning
Okay, that's actually pretty dope. I didn't even know that.
it never has before. Like for example, in game, you can now dig into character bios. From champions that feature in the show like Gaelic, Aethel, Kale, and Elhain, to the fan favorites like Death Knight and Skill of the Drakes and more. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of Raid or you've never played it before, because for every player across the board, now is the perfect time to get in on the action. Everyone will get a chance to get RTAC.
You're so nice for playing this ad because I usually skip his.
For free. 7 days now in July 20th.
Hey,
and if you haven't started,
hey, maybe someone in the chat wants to play Raid Shadow Legends, you know?
Do your own video. So the codes probably won't work.
because with it, you'll get insane bonuses like the epic champion Knight Errant. And if you see me in game at Wendigoon OG, feel free to join my clan. As a storyteller, it means a lot to see.
Yeah,
the
go
world
join
of
his
Raid
clan,
expanded
guys.
in this way.
Yeah.
You enjoy it at least half as much as I do. Again, if you're interested,
Yeah, thanks to our sponsor, Wendigoon, for their sponsor of Raid Shadow Legends.
scan the QR code or go to the link in the
Oh God!
description to get
If I could ever
Thank you all so much for watching.
do a podcast, I would love to have
the
him.
video. It really does mean the most.
Mm.
Hope you all check them out. QR code and link in the
I
description.
mean, I feel like
We
it would
are
be a hard
back to
guide
the video.
podcast.
We're gonna go ahead and get into it, but as always, thank you for watching.
I kind of want to play Raid right now.
You're welcome, Wendigoon.
The Japanese government that led up to the creation of Unit 731 is really extensive, but I want to keep it to what's relevant to the events of World War II. To set the stage, in 1925, the Geneva Convention banned the use of biological and chemical weapons. This was done because during World War I, one of the most brutal parts of trench warfare was the use of chemical weapons. And while this treaty deterred several nations from using it altogether, not every nation was in agreement with the Geneva Convention, one of these being Imperial Japan. Now, as we can see
Geneva
in a moment,
Convention, more like
Japan was
Geneva Suggestion.
and as it related to chemical and biological weapons, them being banned didn't mean they weren't going to use them, it just meant they were going to be very careful about how they use them. And during the 1930s, Japanese researchers began to dig into the possibilities of biological warfare. To make sure we're all on the same page, by biological warfare in this context, I'm referring to things like weaponizing diseases, or using infections as a battle implement. The issue with this was, or at least the issue from the Japanese government's perspective, is it's hard to test the feasibility or practicality of biological weapons if you don't have a population or group of people to test said weapons on. Also during the 1930s, Japan began to attack the mainland of China. At this time in history, China was really struggling to reach.
It wasn't Koreans, it was Chinese people. I'm so sorry.
A lot of their
No, you're fine.
forces were made up of small communities and bands of soldiers, whereas in opposition to them, Japan had an incredibly strong military force. So most of the conquest of China is called a conquest because the Chinese would try to put up the best fight they could, but would just keep getting destroyed by the Japanese government at every turn. So we see all these pieces moving on the board. Japan is interested in biological and chemical warfare, and they're starting to make headway into the Chinese mainland. And again, this is all like a decade before World War II would even begin. Around this time, the Japanese Surgeon General named Shiro Ishii came forward and said that Japan needs to make headway into biological warfare because everyone could tell a war was on the horizon, and if Japan doesn't get to it first, then one of the other powers, like the United States, might beat them to it. The Japanese government, being in agreement at this concept of a biological arms race, in 1932 appointed Ishii as the head of the Army Epidemic Prevention Research Laboratory. Publicly, the purpose of this laboratory was to investigate cures for illnesses and diseases that could befall a military force, when in actuality, they were trying to find new ways to make illness befall a military force. This group also had a division within part of the Japanese-controlled area of China. The unit there in China was known as the Togo Unit and was a part of this biological warfare initiative. Something else to keep in mind whenever we talk about this. So at this point in history, Imperial Japan was especially prejudiced against anything that wasn't Imperial Japan. A lot of the ideas that were made manifest through these experiments and Japan's actions in World War II come from a cultural sense of superiority. As a matter of fact, a superiority that's so strong, it justifies taking over and controlling everyone else. Because of that, several members of the Japanese government and military saw anyone who opposed them as less than human.
This sounds a bit similar
If you'll remember what I mentioned earlier,
to a certain something
biological
that's
weapons
happening right now.
So the Togo unit decided early
Like what?
on that the perfect way to test these weapons
Oh.
The fact that Trump's trying to take over Greenland and Canada. And
Okay, yeah, that is true. I mean, he is trying to do that. But okay, we'll continue watching.
was with residents of mainland China. Initially, this research was carried out at a location known as the Zongma Fortress. The fortress was an old castle-like structure that was built in Manchuria, China, and was repurposed for the Togo unit's needs. The early experiments at the Zongma Fortress typically consisted of bringing in civilians from mainland China and throwing them in the various rooms of the fortress that were converted into prison cells. Inside of these cells, initially, the subjects would be fed well and kept up to good health, and then at that point, the experimentation could begin. Taking these now healthy test subjects, the researchers would then do things like slowly bleed them out over the course of several days, or dehydrate or starve them to see what the effects of the body would be and how long the subject could survive. Again, this was all done in the name of better understanding the limits of the human body. During the course of these tests, they would also be subjected to various diseases like the bubonic plague, and at various stages of infection, the subjects would be vivisected, or a live dissection, most often while the subject was still conscious. This was
did
done
he
to
say
see firsthand
dissection?
what the effects of certain diseases do
Yeah.
to someone's internal system.
yeah, so vivisection is basically dissecting someone while they're alive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay then. I did not know that.
And then, unfortunately, these people were also not given anesthesia either, so they felt everything.
What this group of researchers would go on to do. Things were kind of tenuous at the Zongma Fortress. Again, at this point, it's a group of researchers, not soldiers, who are doing this. And while a part of the Japanese government, it isn't a one-to-one with the Japanese military. So because of that, there were a few accidents that occurred at the facility. In 1934, there was a prison break, and a bunch of the prisoners escaped out into the Chinese countryside. In 1935, there was an explosion and a large part of the fortress was burnt. But in spite of these incidents, the Japanese government liked the concept of these new means of warfare. So in 1936, the Japanese government gave them more funding and more access to military reserves, which not only included a lot of money, but things like Japanese soldiers for guard duty, or Japanese prisoners for experimentation. When Shiro Ishii's group, which again at the time all of this was referred to as the Army Epidemic Prevention Research Laboratory, whenever that group was brought into the Japanese government, it was renamed by Hirohito as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. So again, a word to imply to the public that the group's entire purpose is to make sure that everyone's safe. It was at this point that Ishii's group was officially given the designation of Unit 731. The group then focused all of their efforts into China because, again, that's where most of the test subjects were coming from. But instead of going back to the Zongma Fortress, they now went to a brand new Japanese military research facility. This facility was a massive complex that had over 150 buildings and encompassed over 2 square miles. One of the fascinating things to note about the structure of the building is there was this large, welcome center or area that supposedly anyone who enters the complex has to go through, but that was actually a fake building that was just done for publicity purposes because in actuality there was an underground tunnel that they would shuttle prisoners in and out of outside of the public view. So not only was the name and purpose of the facility a lie, but the actual structure and some of the buildings of the facility were a lie as well, as the majority of experiments took place in these underground tunnels and cells. Now, into the late 30s, as Japan began to take over more of China, there were other facilities that began to pop up that were also a part of Unit 731, but the primary experiments and travesties that happened took place at this large facility located near Pingfang. And by 1939, Unit 731 consisted of over 10,000 individuals. Now, not all of these 10,000 members were a part of human experimentation.
All good?
You gotta understand, Unit 731 is encompassing
I think I just gotta
the way diseases could be treated,
invite
how
from
diseases
one of my friends
may be
on
made
Steam.
manifest, and a lot of the
I don't know.
experiments that were happening at these other facilities might have been...
Too bad. Knowledge is important.
Yes, I know.
But as far as the events that happened at the primary facility we talked about, those were all pretty evil. The excuse for this large facility as to why they bring in so many Chinese prisoners and exist out here in the middle of the woods away from public eyes is that they were a part of lumber production. So the code name given to experiments that had to do with human experimentation was called Maruta, because Maruta is Japanese for logs. And it was kind of an in-joke in the facility that instead of referring to the prisoners and subjects as prisoners and subjects, they would be called logs. Like, for example, how many logs were cut down today? Or do the logs look healthy? This whole code word thing would keep up through a lot of Unit 731's research. For example, several of the researchers who performed the experiments on prisoners firsthand would publish their findings, but they would publish them saying that it was a long-tailed primate that they did it to, or in some instances even referring to these subjects as Manchurian monkeys. Again, the Japanese government knew what was happening, but the rest of the world didn't, and the Japanese government would prefer to keep it that way. A lot of the numbers vary, considering several researchers probably came and went during the height of World War II whenever these experiments were at their worst, but at least one point, Unit 731 had about 300 researchers as a part of the Maruta or human experiments at this primary facility. So, what kind of experiments were happening here at this primary facility of Unit 731 that I have been trying to put off talking about and talking about all the other aspects of it so I don't have to get to it? And why is it regarded by many to be the worst example of human experimentation, or by some, the worst example of government action against a population ever? So I guess I need to talk about that now. And this is your final warning. Click off if you don't want to hear about it, and I don't blame you. So let's start with how the prisoners got to the facility in the first place. As mentioned, the majority of the subjects were people from the Chinese mainland. While the majority of these were Chinese people, there were also several Russians and Mongolians and Koreans who were captured as well as several Japanese political prisoners who were transferred to the facility as well. They would be transported to the front of the facility in a vehicle that had no windows, so that if there ever was an escape or if they were ever let out for whatever reason, they couldn't testify where the facility is even located. And then once they got to the facility, they were bagged and taken to the aforementioned underground tunnels. From there, they were placed into an underground
tunnels?
cell.
Wow.
Most of them on their way in would be given a vaccine for their own health.
Yeah, so in one of the buildings that, like, their front building, there was a hatch or a stairway that led to underground tunnels so that the prisoners could literally never escape this prison. And that was just to prevent people from coming in, doing stories about this wonderful facility that protected their military. They were able to go and look at fake buildings and look at fake workers, but everything bad was happening underground. It was gross.
Alright, let's continue the
being
video.
injected with various diseases, and the disease would change based on whatever study the researchers were currently carrying out. Exact estimates of how many people were taken prisoner are kind of nebulous. On the most conservative end of the spectrum, it's about 3,000, but that number could be as high as 30 or 40,000 people who were actually taken to the facility. However many the true number might be, no one ever survived the Unit 731 experiments. The reason no one's sure how many died in the first place, and it took so long for this information to come out, is because no one that ever walked into that building ever walked back out. So what happened to these prisoners? Well, the thing I mentioned that happened at the Togo facility, the stuff about them being made healthy just so they could be bled out and dehydrated, that was still happening but that was the least of the prisoners' worries. The average lifespan of a prisoner at Unit 731 was about 2 months. If you were lucky, then you were killed quickly in one of the conventional weapon experiments. These experiments were exactly what they sound like. They would take several of the prisoners and place them in a courtyard. One of the things they would do is they would place people in rings at various distances from each other and then throw a hand grenade in the middle to see what lethality the grenade had out to these different rings of people. They would set people on fire with flamethrowers and see how long it took them to burn up. They would line up people in a straight row and then shoot them with rifles and pistols to see the penetration capability. They would sharpen bladed weapons to various degrees to see how sharp a knife needed to be to fully cut through somebody. And of course, as mentioned, this was all done to participants who were fully awake and conscious of the death they experienced. And again, that's if you were lucky. If you were unlucky, then you were a part of the disease trials. So the disease trials were similar to the things mentioned in the Togo unit, where they would infect people with things like the plague and then dissect them while they're alive to see the various stages of infection within the body. But they had been doing the bubonic plague research for years at this point. Again, the time period we're talking about now is generally like 1940, 1941. So the plague research has moved on to much larger demographics. Again, a lot of the records of Unit 731 were destroyed at the end of the war, but from what we know, there was at least 12 field tests of things like the bubonic plague, and 11 of them took place in Chinese cities. So Unit 731 researchers would deposit plague-infected fleas into the middle of a Chinese populace or infect their wells and homes with things like typhoid. And then these researchers would watch from a distance and then walk through these decayed cities in their sterile garbs, recording the number of casualties. At the very least, tens of thousands of people died immediately from these large-scale weapon tests. Entire countrysides of people were destroyed by infected fleas that were simply thrown out in a clay pot. Back at the facility, the feasibility of chemical and biological weapons was being tested as well. They would have prisoners stand out in fields wearing different layers of protection, from completely naked to normal clothes to gas masks and what have you, and then they would just bombard them with things like mustard gas or sulfur gas and see how long it takes them to die at whatever stage of protection they're in. Another thing that the researchers were interested in was weaponizing venereal diseases. So to do this, they purposefully infected a bunch of people with STDs. However, the injections of the STDs tended to not take properly, so as an alternative, male and female prisoners were led into cells and then at gunpoint at various stages of the disease's progression, the individual would be vivisected to see what it's doing to the body. And even all of that is within the realm of feasibility. As evil, as depraved, as monstrous as it is, you can wrap your head around the concept of, okay, well, if someone really, really believed that the people they were torturing aren't really people, and that this is all for the greater good, you can see a purpose, to them at least, they can see a purpose at the end of the tunnel as to why they're doing this, right? Well, that's before we get into what I can only describe as Machiavellian torture methods. Because sure, they're wanting to use new diseases in the war, so they gotta test those, right? But some of the other stuff
Trigger warning.
was simply no other explanation than depravity, or at least none other than I can think of. So to just read off a few of the things that happened at Unit 731, and again, these are things that records were not destroyed of, and people would later confess to. So if it's possible, it is very likely that worse stuff than this happened as well. People were cut open while alive and had various organs removed before they were stitched back up to just see what would happen. So for example, cutting out someone's lower GI tract to see how long it takes them to die from that, taking out someone's stomach and attaching their gut to their throat to see what that does. People had their limbs cut off in some cases
torturing
to visualize how long it took for someone to bleed out. But in other cases, they would saw off both arms and then switch the shoulder that the arm was attached to just to see if the body could reattach it. People were placed inside of low pressure chambers and the pressure cranked up to see how long it took for things like their eyes to fly out or their chest to implode. People were hung upside down by ropes tied to their ankles to see how long it took them to die from blood pressure to the head. People had very large and heavy objects like crates and rocks dropped on them to see how much force it took to kill someone from being crushed. People were placed inside of centrifuges and the speed ramped up until they were dead to see how much G-force it took to kill someone. And as depressing as it is, I should also mention the fact that they determined that children had a lower tolerance to it than adults. People were given intravenous injections of things like horse blood and seawater, again, just to see what would happen. People had their limbs placed in very cold buckets of water until their limbs were removed, and according to researchers, it felt and sounded as if it was wood, and then the limb would either be crushed to see what the damage of a frozen limb that becomes injured might be. They were set on fire to see if anything could be recovered from that. They tested various ways to warm someone back up after they were frozen to that degree. According to Ishii himself, again the lead researcher, they did various experiments where they took babies that were under a month old and placed them in freezing water and freezing elements just to see how long it took them to die of hypothermia. I'm going to read this next one from an excerpt from Hal Gold. He wrote a book called Japan's Infamous Unit 731, which is a book breaking down this whole topic. And Hal says in one portion, "It was said that a small number of these poor men, women, and children who became Marudas were also mummified alive in total dehydration experiments. They sweated themselves to death under the heat of several hot, dry fans. At death, the corpses would weigh only about a fifth of their normal body weight. And in some cases, they would just decapitate people and take notes about it. It really is bizarre the level of insanity this entails. Like, not only is it evil, but it's also so dumb, right? Like, if you just cut someone's head off, what are you even studying? Like I said, you know, of course it's evil. I'm not saying obviously that any of it was better than the others, but when a military tests a weapon, as evil as it is, you could think to yourself, okay, I understand why they did that, but some of these things, just like mummifying people, shattering their frozen limbs, leaving babies out to die, like, it's a strange debauchery. There's all these stories we hear about that, like when Rome fell, there were these big swinger parties and everyone would get high until they were dead, right? And a similar thing happened at the end of World War II in places like Nazi Germany. It's like they were like rapping on the gates of death, just going to go out in a blaze of glory. But this was a group of scientists who did it for a couple decades. Like how, or at least the intensity of it for 5 years, right? Like, we don't even have the excuse that they were about to die or they thought they were just going to bust hell wide open. Like, it was just a continuous, thought-out evil with seemingly no purpose that was signed off by members of governments, military, and the scientific community. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Perhaps the worst fate of anyone in Unit 731, or I'll say definitely the worst fate, was of the pregnancy studies. So as mentioned, the average lifespan of someone in Unit 731 was about 2 months. That number is skewed a bit because a lot of people who got there were killed within the first week, and things like the weapon testing. The reason that the average comes out to 2 months is because several of the studies were women who were, similar to the STDs, forcefully impregnated by either another prisoner at gunpoint or by one of the guards themselves. Similar to the other diseases, a lot of them were dissected while alive at various points in their pregnancy just so they could look at how the fetus was developing. And in other cases, the women were effectively used as a breeding stock so that the researchers could have a fresh batch of infants for several of their tests, like the hypothermia test as mentioned earlier. And you know what gets me about it? Like, I've looked at so many disturbing things. As a matter of fact, I knew a lot about Unit 731, because I covered it on the disturbing movie Iceberg. There is a film that I should have looked up before I started recording. There's two of them. There's Philosophy of a Knife, which I talked about in the disturbing movie Iceberg, and Men Behind the Sun. Both of them go into graphic detail about what happened at Unit 731. So I had seen those, so I'm like, wow, I already knew that, you know, the Japanese government did all of these evil things to these people. And I, you know, knew about the Frozen trials, knew about the chemical weapon trials, even things like the pregnancy experiments. So, like, I knew all of that going into research for this. But the part that threw me off, that I wasn't expecting that I would see, actually, believe it or not, came from Wikipedia. Typically, Wikipedia is a horrible source to get information from because people can just change stuff, and sometimes they just flat out make it up. But whenever I was brushing up for this, I decided I'd look at Wikipedia to see how they had it laid out. And they had an account that I hadn't read anywhere before that kind of stopped me in my tracks. There's at least one recorded instance of friendly social interaction between prisoners and Unit 731 staff. Technician Naokota Ishibashi interacted with two female prisoners. One prisoner was a 21-year-old Chinese woman, the other a Soviet girl who was 19 years of age. Ishibashi asked where she came from and learned that she was from Ukraine. The two prisoners told Ishibashi that they had not seen their faces in a mirror since being captured and begged him to get one. Ishibashi sneaked a mirror to them through a hole in the cell door. And that bothers me so much more than a lot of the other information I read. And the reason for that is because, again, I'm pretty desensitized to just brutality, right? Like the number of historical stories I read about that has to do with people getting, you know, skinned alive, or, you know, brutal executions. Like that's just history, right? It's bloody, it's brutal, evil's always existed. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it is a lot easier to throw a label of ignorance on top of everything, right? Like, we take it for granted in the modern age because everyone's hyper connected by the internet, right? Like what you're watching this video on right now. And it's really easy for us to take human connection for granted. To just say, well, of course, I know that this other group of people is of equal worth as myself because I talk to them. I know several of them. I experience it. And it's easy to go in with that mindset and look at history and be like, oh, well, yeah, I could see how the Imperial Japanese would, you know, be so tricked by their government because they just weren't as educated. They weren't as enlightened as we were, right? So it's easier to read stories about things like Unit 731 if you kind of turn your brain off and you're like, this was a group of people who just didn't see the others as human, and that's why these tragedies were allowed to happen. But then I read the story of a guard who saw two girls, young women, who wanted to remember what they looked like, and he recognized that they needed to feel something, that they needed to have that. So he broke rules and snuck them a mirror. And it made me cold. Because then it's not just a person who let themselves get tricked and convinced themselves that they were dealing with cattle, right? Even, which if these experiments were done with animals, I think we'd all still agree that it's evil and terrible. But maybe that was his mindset, right? That he's just dealing with animals. But to read that he took pity on a girl who two girls who wanted to remember what they look like terrified me, because at least some of them were fully aware that these people were suffering and that was wrong. Not just that they were suffering and this was for the greater good, but that they were suffering and something should be done. And in spite of that, it kept happening. It was such a powerful force of government and people and the greater good that these tragedies kept going on, and the people who participated were well aware of the pain they were inflicting and didn't stop it. And that is so much worse than a group of people who were just following their orders and turned off their ears. This guy still had ears, he was still listening, and he kept following those orders. Along that same note of kind of the illusion of us versus them fading, there was one, I believe he was a guard there. Some said guard, some said he was like a research assistant. Someone who wasn't a high-ranking researcher named Yoshio Sudo, who got infected with the plague while he was there because, you know, everyone's dealing with these volatile diseases, so one of the workers gets infected. So they cut that guy open. Like, I guess they figured, well, he's a test subject now. We're not going to let him go to waste. Who cares if he's Japanese? And they sliced him open, too. It's interesting. While kind of the Japanese government's idea was, well, we're more important than they are, so they can suffer. But we see these glimpses of the Japanese who are infected being treated the same as everyone else who's infected, and also the Japanese recognizing that these people have emotions and feelings, and it makes the situation so much more scary in the end. And I think one of the reasons it is so scary is because, again, we read a lot of stories like this, and it's comforting to think, oh, well, if they just knew better, right? Like, oh, well, maybe if they didn't have to struggle for resources as much, or maybe if they maybe if they were allowed to experience humanity from this other side that they seem to hate so much, maybe then, you know, they wouldn't have had to do the awful things they did, right? It's easier to read a lot of history that way. But you see instances like that, and it kind of, it's dreadful, the idea that, sure, they had all that, it didn't change anything. Near the end of World War II, the Japanese government got desperate and decided to rely on Unit 731 for some kind of drastic measure against the United States. So, using the bubonic plague research that the Japanese had figured out, again by testing it on residents of China, the Japanese government put together a plan called Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night. The plan for this was to release the bubonic plague on San Francisco, and the attack was scheduled to take place on September the 22nd of 1945. But this plan never came to fruition because just over a month before September 22nd, America dropped the atomic bombs on Japan and ended the war. Oh, wow. In these final days of the war, the members of Unit 731 realized that the war courts would not err in their favor and decided to destroy whatever evidence they could. And of course, this evidence began with the prisoners, who were forced to either ingest poison or be shot before the facility itself was set on fire and most of the documents and research destroyed. And as mentioned, no one who ever entered Unit 731 as a prisoner ever walked out. When Douglas MacArthur came to Japan after the war was over, he immediately heard whispers of things like human experimentation. After tracking down Ishii and the other leaders of Unit 731, they confessed that some degree of human experimentation took place, but wouldn't give MacArthur specific details. MacArthur threatened that if the remnants of 731 don't comply with the United States, then the United States would allow the Russians to judge the members of Unit 731. I don't know if you know this, but especially right after World War II, you much wanted to be in a United States tribunal than a Russian tribunal, because Americans typically ended with prison sentences and Russians ended with rope. So a deal was struck between MacArthur and the head researcher.
Good for them, honestly.
Unit 731. That said, if the researchers of 731 turned over all of their data to the United States, then they would be given full immunity. And of course, both sides agreed to that deal. Now, a couple things. The reason this deal was done is because, one, and most importantly, America was afraid of what might happen if the Russians, who shortly after World War II began the Cold War and all of that, or the Cold War began between the United States and Russia, I should say. America was afraid of what would happen if the Russians got their hand on all of that information. So it was more so done not so America could have biological weapons. I mean, we're not dropping plagues on populated cities, at least. That's what they want you to think. But really, it wasn't so much that we could have the information as much as we didn't want the Russians to have the information. And the other reason that the deal was taken is because, not really that I think it would have changed anything, but most of the details of what happened
turn down my TV real quick.
Weren't known until decades after World War II ended. Like most of the stuff I read about came out in confessions in the 70s and 80s. And while MacArthur knew that there was some level of human experimentation, I mean, the data he was handed talked about how long it took for the researchers to witness someone dying of hypothermia, right? Like, he couldn't have been totally dumb to it, but at least the brutality and methods of it, they probably weren't aware of at the time. Not that I think that would have stopped them from it, but Maybe they wouldn't have given full immunity. Maybe I just like to think they wouldn't have given them full immunity if they knew the full extent, but whatever, it still happened. Now keep in mind, to the public at that time, none of this had ever happened. To the Japanese government, to the Chinese, Unit 731 was a crazy conspiracy theory if you thought anything weird was happening out there, because it's just for public health and lumber for some reason. So whenever the immunity deal was made, part of the deal was that America would keep up the lie that nothing ever happened at Unit 731, and all of the members of Unit 731 could change their name, and America wouldn't release their identities to the public. So after America makes this whole plea deal with them, eventually Russia shows up, and they actually have a trial for some of the members of Unit 731, and as you can imagine, didn't care to consult the US over it. So Russia holds a trial, and they end up getting 12 people who they can confirm were in Unit 731, and the sentences for those 12 who were found guilty were 2 to 25 years in a labor camp, of which the most any of them served was 7 years. Now, if you know anything about Russian history with war crimes, the idea that these men weren't shot or hanged is absurd. Especially that they ended up just serving 2 to 7 years, respectively for different people. That is insane. How did that happen? Well, if you'll remember, the American deal with the Russians wasn't made official until like the 80s, and some researchers were going to talk about, put in the work and made it come to be. So the fact that the Russians show up, they talk to the Japanese for a while, and only a few of the 731 researchers get like 5 years in prison, it is pretty much guaranteed that the Russians made a deal with the Japanese, very similar to the deal America made with them. So at the end of the day, this group of people who were monstrous demons even committed a massive amount of bloodshed and misery, and then when the going got tough, they sold that bloodshed and misery to the highest bidder and got off scot-free. So ain't that a kick in the pants? Now again, none of this was public information, and it would have stayed that way if it wasn't for the work of various Japanese historians. See, again, Unit 731 for years was like a boogeyman. There would be a researcher come out in like the 60s or 70s talking about how the project was real, or they were a part of it and they can attest to it. And they would get laughed off by the media, saying that they were just some crazy conspiracy theorist. Historians pulled various records in Japan that supported the government's sanctioning of Unit 731. And in 1983, a historian published his findings and was told by the Japanese Board of Education that he should take those findings out of textbooks because it's not backed historically. So these historians went to the United States, and now, because everything's declassified, went through various records and found MacArthur's immunity deals and the records that he got directly from the Unit 731 experiments, and were able to bring those records back to Japan, show them to the Board of Education, and say, it's real, it's all right here. And from then on, the Japanese government slowly began to admit fault in the Unit 731 experiments. Through the 1990s, the Japanese government finally acknowledged that it was a real thing, but not the specifics of what the researchers actually did. The most recent development of Unit 731 was in 2018, when the Japanese government named the 3,607 researchers who were a part of the unit. And as you can imagine, between all 3,607 of those names, they're all either dead or have disappeared. Shiro Ishii, if you'll remember, the leader of all of Unit 731, died on October the 9th of 1959 from laryngeal cancer, never experiencing judgment on this side of eternity for his role in the Japanese war crimes. And Unit 731, like I said at the beginning of this video, is depressing. There's no two ways about it. There's no happy ending. There's no good side to it. It was a group of people committed atrocities, and they got away with it, effectively. And there's no polish I can give that. But what I can give polish is that this story was almost entirely lost for history. If you were from World War II, from these events happening up until like 1984, when it finally became official, the people who died never died, at least publicly. Their names were just lost as some of the many names lost in World War II. And they were just a statistical anomaly, because governments didn't want to acknowledge the atrocities that they had once condoned, or that the forerunners before them had condoned. And of course, obviously, I don't mean any of my, critiques of the Japanese government during World War II to apply to now. But again, that was less than a century ago. It's hard to think about that humanity is capable of that kind of evil and that kind of justification for that kind of evil. But the point I want to bring out, the one light in all of it, I could say, is the people who would not be quiet. The people who kept learning, who kept digging, and now we have names of the perpetrators, and we have death of the victims. We have cause of the victims. And while it doesn't make it right, and the suffering still happened, it gives some meaning to it. Their names are not simply lost; they were taken. And hopefully, by understanding why they were taken and what great evil led to it, we can prevent tragedies like that from ever happening again. And like I said, Unit 731 is a heavy story, but it's one that I think should be told. Not one I enjoy telling. I didn't have a good time recording this, I'll be honest. But it's one that needs to be. And I'm just a lowly YouTuber. I'm no one important. I'm no one special. But hopefully you got some
Lies. Lies and slander.
You have more depressing knowledge.
I mean, he has a great beard.
Which, in that case,
He does have a good beard, and it's probably all that AG1 he drinks.
I also have a great beard.
No, you don't. It's patchy as fuck. Shut up.
Okay. It's not okay.
Nick does have a good beard as well. So.
But that video is becoming a much larger project with a lot of really cool things that I've never done before, and it's taking more time. So hopefully, whenever
Your beard is more patchier than a punk rocker's jean vest, dude.
Made the rest of this video not
wow.
depressing.
Okay.
If you made it this far, I appreciate it, and I hope it wasn't that much of a bummer. And I want to emphasize, while I talk about a lot of the disturbing and worst parts of humanity,
move on to the
I am
next
talking
topic?
about the outliers.
Yeah. So real quick, what do you guys think? Because I think personally that MacArthur knew of Unit 731's attempt at San Francisco, and that's why the bombs were dropped. That's my personal theory, but
I think I'm sick to my stomach now.
Why?
Heard.
Okay. Yeah.
Why do you think?
I'm gonna have to say the same thing. I'm sick to my stomach just hearing about that. So
you're just gonna copy off of what I said?
No. I mean, no.
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna copy off of you. I just think it's like stupid for killing all those people and all that.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion. It's just stupid.
Got it.
Yeah, a lot of it was senseless, and it was. I'm so glad that this video had a negative effect on both of you. Not because it had a negative effect on you, but because you were able to have a negative effect in correspondence with this video. Because I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, no, that happened.
Well, it was the baby thing that affected me the most. What they were doing to the babies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the craziest part of this video is the vivisections while pregnant at different stages. I think that's one of the grossest things I've ever heard.
And the fact that they used to make people breed with each other at gunpoint is horrible.
Mhm.
That's some
Absolutely.
So, let's get to our topic on number 8. What is what are our favorite foods we like to eat?
Okay. So, do you guys want to talk about yours first?
Yes.
Okay, so for me, I love sushi. Sushi is delicious.
Nasty.
Okay. One of these days, I'm gonna order sushi. And you're gonna try it, and hopefully you'll like it. Also, I like me a good burger. I like, done right. Medium done. A little bit of pink. Lots of seasoning. Juicy with lettuce. Ooh. with Chick-fil-A sauce on it, which is surprisingly decent. I don't know. Oh, but pizza is number one. I gotta say, pizza's pretty. Oh, and go ahead. I'm done.
Okay. I would have to say mine would be the hamburgers I get at Costco because they're really juicy and I've never put any ketchup on it, but
That's sad.
What? Why?
You at least put cheese on it.
No, I don't put cheese on it.
You animal.
I need to put. I need. Okay, fine. I'll start putting stuff on it. And I like Chick-fil-A too. I like the spicy chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. So.
Kate will tell you all about Chick-fil-A.
Can I say something controversial?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would go to a gay conversion camp for a free year of Chick-fil-A. 100%. I would pretend to be straight for Chick-fil-A. That's how good it is.
Now, while we're on the topic of restaurants, my favorite restaurant, probably Five Guys.
Okay.
Like I could eat 3 of those big burgers, and I have.
Nicholas, that is insane.
After I didn't feel good, but in the moment it was amazing.
I imagine
Now,
3 huge ass burgers.
My second favorite one. Oh, and they were all triples, by the way. Anyway, Cane's. Cane's is delicious. I love me some Cane's. Now I don't eat it very often, but Sonic is also pretty good. Just to be able to sit in your car and say, "Hey, I want that," and they'll give it to you, to your window on roller skates is funny. Except for that one time the lady fell on her roller skates and I got splashed in the face with a Dr. Pepper. That was not fun.
What? Okay.
What's your favorite restaurants, Kate?
Restaurants would definitely have to be Chick-fil-A, probably Wingstop.
Okay, yeah, Wingstop.
But as far as food goes, I have an eating disorder called ARFID. ARFID, and that is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So I am extremely picky with foods that I ingest. And my safe foods change quite consistently. Right now it's nuggies and French fries. That's all I can eat right now. But I did enjoy spaghetti from our local pizza place that I will not mention because I refuse to be doxxed again. But yeah. So it the food that I can eat changes, and so does my favorite foods, I guess you could say.
Okay. Oh, Skyline is also pretty good. Skyline chili.
You're nasty for that.
Okay, buddy. You haven't had it.
Okay, buddy. I have, and it's gross.
It's delicious. Yeah. They have really good wraps. You should at least try one of the wraps. You'd really like it. The chicken bacon ranch wrap is delicious.
If you get it for me, I'll eat it. How about that?
Okay, it sounds like a plan.
I'm not spending my money on Skyline, though. Ridiculous.
Okay, what about you, Tyler? And you can't copy any of our answers to get out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I really don't have any favorite restaurants.
Yes, you do. Quit being a smartass. Come on.
Damn.
Look at you. You eat at restaurants, okay? Come on.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna say probably McDonald's and.
Okay, I can respect. Okay.
And Burger King.
Okay.
I can respect it.
Now you also eat a lot of pizza. What's your favorite pizza place?
Papa John's.
Okay. Now, if I had to say a favorite pizza place, it'd probably
we
be
make
Jets.
pizza better.
And
Stop saying local names.
You do realize we live in 2 different counties, right?
I don't care. are close enough.
You do realize there's no jets near you, right? The nearest jets near you is like an hour away.
Thanks. Thanks.
Oh shit.
Thanks. This is what I was trying to avoid, Tyler.
I'm sorry. I guess
It's
we
not
should,
like I'm gonna say what you. I'm like, what?
I mean, I guess we should get to the last topic.
Okay.
But I just want to warn you: viewer discretion is advised. Make sure kids are not watching this. It's bad. It happened on an a fight on an airplane. But
Okay.
You
well,
mean what we just watched?
To be fair, you should have said.
What? Your
What we just watched wasn't good enough for that warning.
Your camera lagged out. So. Okay.
How long is this video? 3 minutes long. That's
So funny.
Just
long.
It's not long.
Top at 10, an unsettling flight from Savannah, Georgia to Miami.
Oh, damn.
Passengers shaken after they say
Rosie's getting in it.
began behaving erratically. Witnesses say he started screaming and stomping when the wheels went up. I'm Jim Barry. They say he then swallowed rosary beads and kicked a flight attendant in the chest. CBS News Miami's Anna McAllister joins us live from MIA.
Okay,
This exclusive.
pause.
Anna, bring us up to speed on.
Did he say he ate rosary beads?
Yes,
he
he did.
sure did. He sure did say that. Okay,
Yes,
continue.
I don't even
I'm
know
Catholic. I'm Catholic, and even I think that's weird.
It is weird.
Well, Jim, I spoke to a passenger that helped to take this man down, and he tells me this entire ordeal was the most disturbing thing he's ever experienced in his life.
Okay. He obviously hasn't experienced very much.
For Miami hit turbulence just moments after takeoff, and we're not talking about the skies.
Myself and my friend were talking. We're like, we could have to take this guy down.
Rob Rosenberg was on this Monday night flight when he says a man, later
this
identified
was
as
that night, okay.
31-year-old DeLonge Augustin, started violently shaking and screaming moments after takeoff. Rosenberg says the crew and passengers initially thought Augustin was having a seizure.
He started stomping his feet violently, like heavily, and screaming. It was kind of a chant. He was talking about devils and possession, and it was like, you have to
Oh, no.
believe it, sort of thing.
According to the criminal complaint, when Flight Attendant 2 approached Augustin to check on his welfare, Augustin turned in his seat, lifted his legs, and kicked Flight Attendant 2 in the chest.
He was being so violent, you were like, this is not normal.
Police say after he kicked the flight attendant, the pilot decided to turn the plane back to Savannah. But Rosenberg says the man continued causing a scene by kicking the back of another passenger's seat.
Destroyed this other man's seat. Like, he kicked it and punched it and just buckled the seat completely over.
Rosenberg says once they were grounded, Augustin once again became violent.
He just charged the front doors of the plane, like swinging wildly.
That's when Rosenberg, his friend, and another man took Augustin down. Rosenberg says Augustin swallowed rosary beads while on the ground and was gripping onto his sister during the takedown.
She had a bun in her hair, and he grabbed hold of her bun in her hair, and he grabbed hold of her pants and wouldn't let her go. So they tased him once, twice, 3 times.
3
He still
times?
didn't let go. At that point, they had to cut the woman's hair to make him let go.
Rosenberg says Augustin was arrested while his sister sang what sounded like hymns.
They were possessed. That was a very, very, very disturbing scene.
So when they said he was charging towards the front of the plane, that means that makes it kind of sound like he was trying to get to the cockpit. Imagine if he had gotten to the cockpit. That's crazy.
So
crazy.
That was probably the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
And according to this criminal complaint, Augustin told his sister while they were on the flight that they were going to go to Haiti to flee from spiritual and religious attacks. Police also say that Augustin told his sister that Satan's disciples had followed them onto the plane. He is facing several charges tonight. But for now, reporting live from the Miami International Airport, Anna McAllister, CBS News, Miami.
Anna.
What were you going to say, Kate?
So this is why I don't like media and watching the news, because I have questions, okay? And they didn't answer any of my questions. Was this guy on drugs? was it a psychotic break? Or did he actually believe that the plane was full of demons? Okay?
I don't even know. I mean,
because 2 of those things are not his fault. One of those things are.
What is? I don't even know what rosary beads are, but.
So it's that.
I'll show you.
It's that beaded chain thing with a patron saint on a cross. I don't remember which paint. I don't remember which saint.
So it's like
patron
that?
saint. Yeah. They wear them as necklaces and prayer beads. They wrap them up in their hands and then they pray with them.
Okay.
It's a Catholic thing.
Yep, I'm Catholic.
I'm aware.
I mean, how long have we been going for? Hold on.
Do we even still have a chat? Doesn't look like it.
We only have 3 people watching.
Word.
That's
3 people.
Yes. I mean, I guess
one more than we had. That's one more than we had a minute ago. Although 2 of those are probably one of those is probably me, to be honest.
And one of them is me.
I mean, I guess we should. I mean,
you want to end it?
Yeah, we can end it. I'm Tyler, and this is my lovely co-host, Nick H.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Hang on a second. And that's Kate. Come on, Tyler.
And that's Kate. Sorry. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Rocky Mountain Podcast. Up in the mountains where the air is fresh, Tyler and Nick are ready to impress. On the mic, they're bringing it live with the latest news and the vibes that thrive. From the heart of the Rockies, they share the view, talking about the world and what's coming through. Interviewing guests with stories to tell. Tuning in on Discord where we all gel. It's the Rocky Mountain Podcast. Let's go. Tyler and Nick got the flow, you know. Talking the news, keeping it real. With every episode, there's a new feel. Tune in, hang out. It's a ride we take. With Tyler Rocks and Nick H. Let's hit play. From the headlines to the talk of the town, they dig deep and never let you down. With guests from all walks of life, every chat's an adventure full of delight. Discord's where the magic comes alive, sharing thoughts and laughs. We all vibe from what's going on to what's on your mind. Tyler and Nick, always so kind. It's the Rocky Mountain Podcast. Let's go. Tyler and Nick got the flow, you know. Talking the news, keeping it real. With every episode, there's a new feel. Tune in, hang out. It's a ride we take. With Tyler Rocks and Nick H. Let's hit play. So grab your headphones, take a seat. The Rocky Mountain Podcast can't be beat. From interviews to stories untold, it's the best in the Rockies, that's pure gold. It's the Rocky Mountain Podcast, let's go. Tyler and Nick got the flow, you know. Talking the news, keeping it real. With every episode, there's a new feel.